Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to clear your mind for a second. Forget the traditional map of the world you have hanging in your office.
Okay.
I want you to imagine a country that seems to be designed by an algorithm that was fed a history of the Roman Empire, a stack of libertarian economic textbooks, and, I don't know, a speculative fiction novel about the Amazon rainforest.
That is a very specific visualization.
Right.
But looking at the documents we have in front of us today, it's not far off.
Not at all.
In fact, it might even be an understatement.
It's the only way I can describe it. We are looking at a nation that explicitly, and I mean this is in the first few lines of its constitution, defines itself as a democratic dictatorship.
Which, right out of the gate, is a term that should make any political scientist's brain just short circuit.
Right.
It's a complete oxymoron. You usually have one or the other. You don't get to have your cake and eat it, too, when it comes to autocracy and democracy. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. This place claims to be the worthy successor to the ancient Roman Empire. It has a capital city named Nova Aurelia.
A very Roman-sounding name.
But, and here is the kicker, it is not in Europe. It's not in the Mediterranean. It is comprised of provinces named Amazonia and Brasilia.
So let me get this straight. We are analyzing a Roman successor state, presumably located in the heart of the South American rainforest, operating under a system that attempts to fuse authoritarian executive power with democratic legislative mechanisms.
That's the puzzle.
Good.
Today, we are conducting a deep dive into the sovereign nation of Waikiki. And before anyone checks their travel app, no, we are not talking about the beach in Honolulu.
No. This is a fully realized sovereign state, and we have the primary sources right here. We've got their constitution, the Alcotmany, we have their full list of government ministers, and we have a really detailed breakdown of their political parties and their ideologies.
Our mission today is to figure out how this machine actually works. We need to understand how a country functions when it combines a dictator with free and fair elections.
And how they reconcile a hyper-capitalist party, a party named the World Dominance Party, with policies like universal health care and a 4-day work week.
I mean, that's just another one of the contradictions.
It really is a case study in what happens when you decide to cherry-pick specific elements from history and modern governance to create something entirely new. It challenges our assumptions about left versus right and authoritarian versus democratic.
Totally.
It forces us to ask, is this a Frankenstein monster of governance? Or is it a calculated, maybe even brilliant, attempt at a new kind of efficiency?
And I have to be honest, when I first saw the name World Dominance Party in the source material, my first instinct was to laugh. It feels like a bad translation.
Or joke.
Yeah, or a joke from a comic book. It just seems so over the top.
It does sound theatrical, but I think if we dismiss it as just a joke, we miss the point entirely.
You're telling me this is serious?
It is deadly serious. And what's so fascinating is that if you look past the aggressive branding, you find policies that are incredibly complex and, surprisingly progressive in some ways.
How so?
You have a party that sounds like a villain's organization, yet they are the ones who actually implemented universal health care. It suggests a very different political culture than what we're used to in the West.
A culture where dominance isn't just about war.
Exactly. It might be about social capability, about economic strength, about having the most efficient and healthy populace. It's a redefinition of the term.
So let's peel this onion. Where does a country like this even begin? What's the foundation?
You have to start with a core identity. We need to look at the preamble of their constitution. That's the DNA of the nation. It tells you everything about their self-perception.
I have it right here. It opens with, "We, the people of Waikiki, decided of our own free will to found our own country."
Okay, stop there for a second. Free will. That is a crucial distinction. It's so deliberate.
What do you mean?
Most countries are formed through history, bloodlines, war, or just gradual evolution over centuries. This phrasing implies a social contract theory come to life.
Like Rousseau or Locke.
Precisely. It implies a moment of conscious creation. A group of people got together and said, we are doing this. We are stepping out of the existing order to build something new from scratch.
It's very intentional. It continues to say they are proud to create an empire of prosperity and abundance, and then they drop the Roman connection, proud to be the worthy successor to the ancient Roman Empire.
And that claim is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is.
By claiming to be the successor to Rome, they aren't just adopting an aesthetic. They aren't just naming their city Nova Aurelia for fun. They're adopting a philosophy. Rome represents order, engineering, law, infrastructure.
A sense of permanence,
Yes, and the idea of civilization taming the wild.
which is a powerful narrative if you are carving a nation out of the Amazon jungle. You need that psychological armor, that grand story to tell yourself.
Precisely. It gives the citizens a sense of grandeur. You aren't just living in a rainforest struggling against the elements. You are citizens of Nova Aurelia. You are the heirs to Marcus Aurelius. It elevates the national project from mere survival to, well, destiny.
Speaking of the location, let's look at the geography more closely. The Constitution lists 3 provinces: Waikiki, Amazonia, and Brasilia.
Geographically, this places us firmly in South America. There's no ambiguity there. But politically, they've carved out a very distinct zone. Look at Article 5 regarding the provinces.
I see it. It says the provinces are equal, and crucially, movement, relocation, or transport of goods between provinces cannot be restricted in any case, and no customs duty can be imposed.
That is a constitutionally mandated free trade zone. It's like a mini Schengen area or the U.S. Interstate Commerce Clause, but simpler and more absolute.
So from day one, they were focused on the economy.
They recognize that for this empire to function economically, there could be no internal friction. The resources from Amazonia, say timber or minerals, need to get to the capital or the coast without any red tape.
It implies they wanted to create an internal engine of growth immediately. No tariffs, no checkpoints, just flow.
Exactly. Prosperity requires velocity. If you have to stop at a checkpoint every time you move goods from the resource-rich interior to a port, you kill that velocity. Waikiki enshrined economic speed in their founding document.
Now I'm looking at the visual identity of this place. The flag, it's busy.
It is a lot to take in. It's certainly not following the keep it simple rule of vexillology.
Not at all. We've got 2 elephants, palm trees, a gold laurel wreath, and 3 pyramids.
It's eclectic, but every single piece tells us something about their psychology, about the story they want to tell.
Okay, walk me through.
The palm trees are obvious, harmony with the tropical environment. It's an acknowledgement of where they physically are. The gold laurel wreath is the Roman connection, victory, prosperity, honor. It links them back to that imperial lineage.
But elephants in the Amazon, that feels like the outlier. That's the one that doesn't fit.
That is the most interesting choice, I think. The Constitution says they symbolize peace. Yes. But historically, elephants are also associated with wisdom and memory. And in a military context, think Hannibal crossing the Alps. They are tanks. They are a projection of power.
Maybe it's about being unshakable. An elephant is hard to move. It's stable.
But symbolically, it projects a kind of heavy, unstoppable peace.
We are peaceful because we are too big to mess with.
That's a good way to put it. A very Roman kind of peace, in a way. The Pax Romana.
And the pyramids.
Stability. A pyramid is the most stable architectural structure known to man. It represents the alliance of the 3 provinces. It implies that the country rests on a base that cannot be toppled. It's a message to their neighbors and their citizens. We are here to stay. We are permanent.
It all just screams permanence. Even the national anthem is titled, "This is Our World."
It borders on possessive, doesn't it? It's not a prayer or a hymn to nature. It's a declaration of ownership. It fits perfectly with the world dominance theme we see later. This isn't a humble nation asking for its place in the world. It's a nation declaring it already owns it.
Okay, let's get into the machinery of the government. This is where the democratic dictatorship paradox really lives. We have a king, a dictator, and a president. It feels like too many cooks in the kitchen.
It's a separation of powers, but not the way Montesquieu imagined it.
Not at all.
It's more of a functional separation than a checks and balances separation. Let's start with the king, because he's the simplest piece of the puzzle.
The Constitution says the king is sacred and inviolable. Sounds pretty powerful.
It does, but keep reading. What are his actual powers? What can he do?
Well, he symbolizes national unity. He grants pardons. Succession is male preference, then the eldest daughter can take the throne. But it doesn't say he signs laws. It doesn't say he commands the army or appoints ministers.
Exactly. He has no political responsibility. None. He is purely symbolic. He is the dignified part of the Constitution, to borrow British terms.
So he's a figurehead.
He exists to be the soul of the nation, to cut ribbons, to embody the history, and to offer mercy through pardons. He does not govern. He reigns, but he does not rule.
So if the king is the mascot who runs the show, it has to be the dictator.
This is the part that stopped me cold when I first read it. Article 3 states, "The form of state of Waikiki is a democratic dictatorship, headed by a dictator appointed by Parliament for an unlimited period.
Unlimited period. That's the terrifying part. That's the part that sounds like a trap.
It is. In almost every modern democracy, term limits are the primary check on executive power. Even in parliamentary systems without strict term limits like the UK, the Prime Minister can be removed by a vote of no confidence at any time.
But not here.
Here, they have removed that volatility. Once Parliament appoints you, you are there. You're there until you resign or die or incapacitated.
But he is appointed by Parliament, and Parliament is elected by the people, so there's a democratic link there, at least at the beginning.
So there is a democratic mandate at the source. The people vote for the members of Congress, and then Congress picks the dictator. But once that transfer of power happens, the door locks behind him. It's a one-way valve of legitimacy.
What can this dictator actually do? Is he just a strategic figurehead different from the king?
Far from it. This is where the real power is concentrated. He is a massive, hard power. He appoints the entire Senate.
The whole upper house of the legislature.
Yes. He also appoints the chancellor, the National Bank Director, and the Army Chief of Staff. And crucially, he can veto laws passed by the legislature.
So wait, he controls the money, the military, and half the legislature.
Correct. He holds the strategic levers of the state. He's not involved in the day-to-day squabbles of governance. He ensures that the deep state, the military, the currency, the upper house, remains loyal to a singular long-term vision.
But then why do they even need a president? What's the point?
Because running a country is hard work. It's messy. The dictator deals with strategy and national survival. The president leads the government. And the president is the one proposing laws, managing the ministries, dealing with the daily grind of administration. He handles the politics so the dictator can handle the power.
So the president runs the cabinet, proposes the budget, answers questions from the press.
Exactly. Think of it like a massive corporation. The king is the brand mascot, the face of the company. The dictator is the chairman of the board. He sets the 50-year vision. He hires the key operational heads, the C-suite, and he has a final veto.
And the president.
The president is the CEO.
Yeah.
He runs the day-to-day operations. He answers to the shareholders, who are the voters, and he tries to get things done within the chairman's grand vision.
That's a fascinating analogy. It splits the state, which is the dictator's domain, from the government, which is the president's.
And theoretically, it solves the problem of short-termism in politics.
So-
You know how politicians in democracies only care about the next election cycle? They kick the can down the road on difficult issues like infrastructure or debt or climate change because the solutions are painful and the benefits are years away.
Right. Long-term pain for long-term gain doesn't win elections.
But in Waikiki, the dictator doesn't have to care about the next election. He can say, we need to build a nationwide fusion power grid. It will take 20 years and be hugely expensive. Do it. The president has to make the voters happy today, but the dictator ensures the country survives and thrives tomorrow.
It creates a dual timeline, short-term democratic responsiveness through the president and long-term autocratic stability through the dictator. But what happens when the CEO and the chairman fight? What if the president passes a law the dictator hates?
That brings us to the legislature. The parliament is bicameral, 2 houses.
Congress and the Senate.
The Congress consists of 100 members, elected by the people via proportional representation. This is the democratic engine. It reflects the mood of the electorate. If the people are angry about something, Congress will be angry about it.
This is the voice of the people.
Yes. And the Senate, as we said, they're all appointed by the dictator.
Right, so you have one house representing the will of the people and one house representing the will of the state, or more accurately, the will of the dictator.
And the source says the Senate acts as a check or a strategic review. It's not just a rubber stamp.
So that's the mechanism. If Congress passes a populist law, say, free ice cream for everyone, paid for by printing $1 trillion,
A classic populist move.
the Senate, which is likely filled with economists, scientists, and technocrats appointed by the dictator for their expertise, can just block it.
They can. They can say, this is strategically unsound and will cause hyperinflation. And then what happens?
If they disagree. If the Senate blocks the Congress.
They hold a plenary session. Both houses sit together in one room and vote. Since they are equal in number, 100 versus 100, it forces a compromise. Neither side has a clear majority.
So you can't just ram things through.
The populists in Congress have to convince some of the technocrats in the Senate that their idea has merit, or vice versa. The technocrats have to explain to the people's representatives why their plan is better.
It's actually surprisingly clever. It forces stability. It prevents the tyranny of the majority, which can lead to disastrous short-term policies.
But it also prevents the dictator from totally ignoring the people,
Right.
because to pass his own agenda, he needs at least some support from the elected Congress to get a majority in that joint session.
It creates a forced dialogue, but it all hinges on one thing, doesn't it?
What's that?
It relies entirely on the dictator being a rational, benevolent actor, the good emperor fallacy.
You've hit the nail on the head. If you get a Marcus Aurelius, this system works beautifully. It could be the most efficient and stable form of government on Earth. But if you get a Nero,
Then you're in real trouble.
the Senate is appointed by him, the army is appointed by him, the bank is appointed by him. The system has very few checks left if the man at the very top decides to break it.
Let's look at the judiciary. Is there any hope for the little guy there? Can you sue the government?
The Supreme Court.
Hmm.
The judges are appointed by the Senate.
Which means indirectly they're appointed by the dictator.
Yes, the influence is there.
That doesn't sound independent at all.
But, and this is a big but, they serve fixed 7-year terms, and there are explicit, strict rules in the Constitution. Their salaries cannot be reduced, and they cannot be removed by the government once appointed.
So once they're on the bench, they're insulated.
That tenure is their shield. They don't have to worry about political pressure for the next 7 years. It gives them a window of genuine independence.
I noticed a really interesting phrase in the legal philosophy section. It says laws must be interpreted based on common sense, public good, and morality.
That is a massive double-edged sword. In the West, our legal tradition is usually textualist or originalist. We care about what the law says strictly.
Right, the letter of the law.
If the law says you can't park on Tuesday but doesn't mention Wednesday, you can park on Wednesday. Waikiki is prioritizing the spirit of the law over the letter.
So if I find a clever tax loophole, the judge can just say, no, common sense says you should pay your fair share.
Exactly. Your loophole violates the public good and the morality of our society. Objection overruled. On one hand, it prevents people from gaming the system. On the other,
It gives judges a huge amount of subjective power.
a truly enormous amount. Who defines morality? Who defines common sense?
Probably the dictator who appointed the Senate, who appointed the judge.
You're seeing the circle of power now. The system is designed to close loops and maintain a consistent ideology from the top down.
Let's shift gears to the political landscape. So
Okay.
the people running this machine, the voting system itself is worth a mention before we get into the parties.
It is online voting, multi-factor authentication. They have completely embraced the digital reality. No paper ballots, no queues, no hanging chads.
They want participation to be as frictionless as possible.
Which is smart. If you want democratic legitimacy, you need high turnout. Making it easy to vote from your phone is the best way to do that.
And they seem to use referendums a lot, direct democracy.
Binding referendums, which is key. This is the safety valve for the dictatorship. It's the people's emergency brake.
What do you mean?
The source mentions referendums were used for universal health care and the green agendas. This means the people can bypass the entire government structure, the president, the Congress, the Senate, even the dictator, if they're organized enough to get an issue on the ballot and win.
So it's a power hierarchy. Dictator is over the Senate, which is over the president. But the people, through a referendum, are over everyone.
In theory, it's a high-stakes game of rock, paper, scissors. If the dictator gets too tyrannical, the people could technically vote for a new constitutional amendment to rein him in. The big unknown is whether the dictator would respect that result if it threatened his power.
Okay, we have to talk about the parties. The big one. The World Dominance Party.
The WDP. I can't get over that name.
They were formerly the Capitalist Party. I mean, at least they're saying the quiet part out loud now.
It's aggressive branding, to say the least. It completely lacks subtlety.
But look at their platform. They are the conservatives. They believe in economic liberalism, funding space research, building mega buildings, and a trans-border missile defense. They sound like they want to turn the country into some kind of sci-fi fortress.
It's a very muscular, forward-looking conservatism. But here's the paradox we touched on earlier. This same party, under President George Bush,
The World Dominance Party introduced universal health care in 2017.
and free public transport in 2018, and oversaw the implementation of a 4-day work week.
It just breaks the American stereotype of what a conservative party is, doesn't it?
It does, but it fits the Roman archetype perfectly. What did the Roman emperors provide?
Grain, baths, entertainment.
The grain dole, aqueducts for clean water, public baths for hygiene. Why? To keep the people happy.
Well, yeah. Breads and circuses to keep them quiet and prevent riots.
Partially, but also to keep them functional. If you want to have a dominant empire, you need a population that is healthy, mobile, and efficient. The WDP views healthcare not as charity, but as infrastructure maintenance.
So it's a strategic investment.
You don't let your tank rust. You don't let your worker get sick.
Yeah.
It's a very cold, utilitarian way to look at welfare. It's not, we care about your feelings. It's, we need you on the assembly line to build our mega buildings.
And the 4-day work week fits that, too.
Of course. It's about productivity. Studies show output can increase. Work incredibly hard for 4 days, build the empire, then rest and recover for 3 so you can come back and do it again at peak efficiency. It's a high-performance culture.
Then we have the Democratic Party, the centrists.
Their key figure seems to be President Aaron Eckhart. He has served from 2010 to 2015, and he's back in power from 2025 onwards. Their focus is on education and institutions.
So they're the builders of the system itself.
It seems that way. They seem to be the ones who write the rules that allow the WDP to build the buildings and the army.
They sound like the adults in the room, the institutional memory.
Every empire needs administrators, not just conquerors. The Democrats seem to fill that role, focusing on decentralization and, interestingly, free higher education. They are building the brains, while the WDP builds the muscle.
And the Patriot Party, formerly the Millionaires' Party.
Now, that was a necessary rebrand, don't you think?
Vote for us, we're rich. Probably didn't poll well, even in a hyper-capitalist state.
Patriot Party is much savvier branding. They're the nationalists. Low tax, strict borders, Waikiki first. They oppose unconditional benefits for non-citizens.
They seem to be the protectionist wing of the establishment. They want the benefits of this empire reserved strictly for the citizens who are building it.
And they seem to rely on charisma and populist appeal. They represent the insider class who wants to pull up the ladder behind them.
Finally, the Sustainable Development Party, the Greens.
But these are not your typical recycle your plastic greens. They are Fusion Power by 2035 Greens, founded by a figure named Darius Tanz.
They are pushing the technological edge of environmentalism. It's techno-utopian.
They view sustainability as an engineering challenge, not just a moral one. Zero waste by 2030 is an incredibly ambitious logistical and industrial goal. It's not about consuming less, it's about building a perfectly efficient circular economy.
It's a fascinating mix of parties. You have the dominators building missiles and hospitals, the patriots protecting the rich, the Democrats funding schools, and the Greens building fusion reactors. It feels weirdly functional.
It covers all the essential bases for a modern state: stability, defense, commerce, social safety net, and future-proofing. It's a broad coalition of ideologies that usually fight each other to a standstill, but here they seem to have carved out their own lanes.
Let's talk about the money, because there is a clause in the Constitution regarding taxes that I think would make this the most popular destination on Earth for anyone with a job.
Article 5 of the Basic Rights section, it is quite extraordinary.
It says, wages earned by decent work cannot be burdened by any tax or contribution.
No income tax.
Zero.
Specifically on wages earned from labor.
So if I work a 9-to-5 job as an engineer or a doctor or a construction worker, I keep 100% of my paycheck. The government takes nothing.
That's what the Constitution guarantees. The state does not touch the fruit of your labor.
But how? How is that possible? We just talked about universal health care, free college, a transporter missile defense system, space programs. That stuff isn't cheap. It's enormously, mind-bogglingly expensive.
This is the million-dollar question, or more likely the billion-dollar question. The Constitution gives us the answer, though it's a bit vague. It says the state's goal is national wealth accumulation.
Which means what, exactly?
It lists fossil fuels and digital infrastructure as national strategic assets. And it says they cannot be foreign-owned.
Ah. So the state is an oil company, or a gas company.
Likely. They are in Amazonia and Brasilia. They are almost certainly sitting on massive reserves of oil, gas, or maybe rare earth minerals. The state itself owns the resources, extracts them, sells them on the global market, and uses that profit to fund the entire government.
It's the Gulf state model, or the Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund model.
But supercharged. And they added that modern twist, digital infrastructure. They're monetizing the land and the data so they don't have to monetize the labor of the people.
It's a powerful incentive. It's the ultimate recruitment tool. Come to Waikiki, work hard, contribute to the great project, and you keep everything you earn.
It aligns perfectly with the preamble's promise of prosperity and abundance. It treats the citizen as a partner in wealth generation, not as a source of revenue. It fundamentally changes the relationship between the citizen and the state. In most countries, you work for the state for part of the year via taxes. Here, the state works for itself and leaves you alone.
Let's look at the currency for a moment. The Waikiki dollar.
Issued and managed by the National Bank, whose director is, of course, appointed by the dictator, the primary goal is price stability inflation targeting.
And they hold gold reserves.
It signals stability and trust. If you are a brand new country claiming to be a new Roman Empire, you need trust above all else. Fiat currency requires trust in the government that issues it. Gold requires trust in physics.
So it's about perception.
By holding a massive gold reserve, they are telling the world, our money is real. It's backed by something tangible. It fits the world dominance narrative. You can't dominate the world with a weak, inflatable currency. You need hard money.
Moving on to rights and liberties. For a place that calls itself a dictatorship, they have some surprisingly liberal clauses in their constitution.
Article 8 is a standout. I had to read it twice. What the law does not prohibit, no one can prevent.
That is the ultimate freedom clause. It's the definition of a free society almost.
It completely shifts the burden of proof. In highly bureaucratic states, you effectively need permission to do things. To open a business, to build a house, to hold a protest, you need a permit. Here, the default setting is yes, unless the state has passed a specific law that says no.
It's negative liberty, freedom from interference.
But then, just a few articles later, we have the 1999 cutoff.
I saw that. We do not recognize the communist laws prior to 1999 because they formed the basis of a tyrannical rule.
This gives us the backstory we were missing. This is the origin story.
It is. It tells us that this region was communist or socialist regime before 1999. The free will founding in 2000 was a direct rejection of that system.
It explains everything. It explains the obsession with private property rights. It explains the hatred of income tax, which they might view as socialist confiscation of property.
It explains the aggressive world dominance, capitalism, and the billionaires' party.
They are reacting to trauma. The national psyche is built on the memory of that tyrannical rule.
It's a classic pendulum swing. They went from one extreme, communism, all the way to the other. Roman Empire capitalism.
Exactly. And that trauma might explain why the people are willing to accept a dictator. They might see a strongman, an autocrat, as the only insurance policy against sliding back into the chaos or tyranny of the past. They're willing to trade some political freedom for the guarantee that the pre-1999 era will never return.
There is a digital right listed here that I love, and I wish more countries had it. Citizens have a right to know government data in searchable form.
Radical transparency. And the key word is searchable. It's not enough for the government to dump a 5,000-page PDF on a forgotten corner of a website. It has to be accessible. It has to be data you can analyze.
It implies a citizenry that is actively watching government, keeping them honest. It forces the bureaucracy to be clean because all the data is open to public scrutiny.
It's another one of those fascinating checks on power that coexists with the dictator.
But then the justice system have a quirk that sounds, well, it sounds medieval.
We're talking about the prisoner costs.
Yes. The Constitution states that convicts must pay the state for the cost of their own imprisonment.
It is brutally efficient, isn't it? But think about the logic from their perspective. You broke the social contract. You harmed the community. Why should the community's wealth, whether from taxes or oil revenue, be spent to feed and house you? You created the cost, so you bear the cost.
So you get a bill for your time in your cell, for your food.
And if you can't pay, you work. It creates a system of mandatory prison labor. It aligns perfectly with the no free ride mentality of the Patriot Party and the WDP. It's not about rehabilitation. It's about restitution to the state.
But at the same time, they also have no death penalty. The Constitution says human life is sacred.
So they value your life. They won't take it from you. But they expect you to be productive and pay your debts to society, even when you're behind bars. It's a very specific and consistent moral code. Life is sacred, but laziness is a sin.
Finally, we have to look at the emergency powers. This is where the mask comes off, isn't it? This is the dictator's kill switch.
Under a declared state of war or state of danger, rights can be limited. The dictator takes direct personal control of the army. All the democratic niceties can be suspended.
So let's zoom out. Let's try to put a bow on this. What have we found here?
We found a laboratory of political science. Waikiki is a bold and I think dangerous attempt to solve the inefficiencies of modern democracy without completely losing the legitimacy of elections. It wants the speed and long-term vision of an autocracy combined with the innovation and dynamism of a free market.
It's seductive. On paper, you can see the appeal. It solves the gridlock we see in the US or Europe. You want to build a new high-speed rail network. Done. You want to implement universal health care. Passed in a month. No filibusters, no endless committees arguing over nothing.
But the cost is trust. You have to place an immense amount of trust in the idea that the dictator is a benevolent guardian, a philosopher king.
And you have to trust that the World Dominance Party won't actually try to, dominate the world.
You're putting all your eggs in one very powerful, unelected basket.
And that brings me to my final thought, something for you to mull over. The World Dominance Party founded an international organization called the World Government in 2018. They have a transborder missile defense system. They call themselves the successor to Rome.
And Rome was an expansionist power. Rome did not stay in Italy. Rome did not respect the borders of its neighbors for very long.
If they have the money from the oil and data, the technology, from the space program and fusion research, and the ideology of empire, are their global ambitions just getting started?
That's the real question.
Is Waikiki content to be a hyper-efficient paradise in the jungle, or do they want to export their model to the rest of the world, whether the world wants it or not?
That is the question that should probably worry the rest of South America and maybe beyond. If this model works, if it provides unparalleled prosperity and stability, it becomes a very attractive export product. And world dominance might not be military. It might be ideological.
A massive thank you for helping me unpack this fascinating, contradictory nation.
It was a pleasure. It's certainly a file I'll be keeping an eye on. It's one of the most unique constitutional structures I've ever seen.
And to you, the listener, would you trade your vote for a 4-day work week and no income tax? It's a harder question than you might think. Until next time, stay curious.